Nation's Alex Capriello joins me live now from Kansas City. So you've been learning a lot, not only just today, but just in the last few minutes, something about the night of the discovery. Somebody witnessed something. What have you found out?
Yeah, what's interesting is we've been here all day, but when you do a lot of door knocking during the middle of the day, you don't get a lot of answered doors. People are at work. And so when we were out here setting up our live shot, we actually just had a neighbor approach us who lives right across from the house where this all went down, which is, of course, right here behind me. And he really filled in some gaps about what that night looked like when the investigators first got here. First and foremost, he said just by happenstance, he happened to be looking out the window at the time that Clayton McGeeney's fiance actually came here to snoop around for herself. Remember, she was the one who actually discovered the bodies in the first place and called 911. So from this neighbor's firsthand eyewitness report, he says he watched her actually leave the backyard, this gate right here behind me, call 911. And he said shortly after that, this whole street was flooded with cops. Meanwhile, he's filming the whole thing from his cell phone from his front window, looking out, just wondering what the heck could be happening right here in his neighborhood, right across from his street. We're working on getting that video to you so that way you can show your viewers. But let me just describe it. He tells me that actually that person at the center of all this speculation, Jordan Willis, was actually handcuffed and detained right here against this brick wall of the house while police were asking questions. He said he filmed as actual investigators were searching through this entire house using flashlights to actually comb through each and every room, trying to find any other clues or evidence. Eventually, he said Willis was let go out of that handcuffs. He was taken to a car, presumably questioned more. But this was a big mystery that entire night. Nobody knew what was going on, and it wasn't until the news reports started filling in that next day that people started getting some answers. Of course, to your point, still more questions than we have actual answers, but at least we have a better idea of what that actual scene looked like that night.
I know that you're getting that video, and that as soon as you get it, we'll try and get it on the air. But quickly, you were able to get an interview about the view out of Jordan Willis's kitchen, and there's a big sliding glass door. What'd you learn?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people here are a little skeptical about the story that we're hearing, in specific, Jordan Willis's story, the fact that he slept through 48 hours without actually having any sort of inclination that his friends were dead outside. And so most people that I'm here in the neighborhood that I'm speaking to tell me that they just don't know Jordan. He seems to be a bit of a hermit. He doesn't come out. He doesn't really talk to neighbors. He has 2 dogs, we know, but he doesn't really do much dog walking. And so a lot of people are a little weirded out by this whole story. Here's what one neighbor told me.
Willis did say that he didn't see his friends out, but he has a sliding glass door going right into his backyard, and it's in his kitchen, so like you have to see it. I don't know, I just feel like there's no way you didn't see your friends dead outside.
So even if he didn't contribute to their deaths, it's a little weird. He may not be telling the whole truth.
Right, I mean, people were calling him, people were knocking on the door, and he wasn't answering to anybody, so I just feel like that's odd that you wouldn't say anything.
I think it's just a matter of time. You know, I trust a lot of the people who are like involved in investigating the case, and you know, I'm just waiting for any answers as a community member. I think that's what we're all waiting for.
And we do know now that Jordan Willis no longer lives here. This was a rental property that he lived in, but these neighbors tell me that they saw a U-Haul truck within about a week and then packing it all up and moving out. It's empty now. There is one light that stays up on the upper floor, but the neighbor here tells me that it's been on every single day since this incident happened.
Break in to our coverage, Alex, when you get that video of Jordan Willis being cuffed that night, if you would. I know that's a lot of logistics, but if you can, certainly let us know. We're on the air for another 28 minutes.
You got it.
Thank you for...
Remember, I told you about Ashton Brady. He was the neighbor who lives right across from Jordan Willis, who just by happenstance looked out at the exact moment that 911 was being called. Ashton, we know now that was Clayton's fiance that actually discovered those bodies, called 911 and alerted the authorities. Just walk me through what you saw in that moment.
So basically, I was just going, turn off all my lights. I was getting ready for bed, locking the doors. I went to lock my front door, and I saw a woman come out of the backyard on her phone, and she looked distressed because she kept looking back towards the house, and I thought it was weird. But I just moved in, so I really didn't know much, and so I just went back to my room. 10 minutes later, I saw an ambulance drive by, and I said, well, that's just weird. Something's going on. Went to the front room, looked out, and I saw that there was already 3 cop cars, and there was a man detained, and the woman was talking to the other police. And basically, I kind of watched that conspire for an hour or two. The man eventually left. The police searched the house, went through the backyards and everything, and I had no idea what had happened. And the next morning I saw the news that they had found 3 dead bodies, and I just was kind of in disbelief. I was like, wow, I watched that happen.
Right, and actually we're looking at that video that you shot right there on the top left corner of your screen. So basically you're saying that's the video where you're actually looking out and you can see Jordan Willis being detained.
That's probably within the first 5 to 10 minutes. I was like, oh my goodness, something serious is going on at least. So yeah.
So your red flags were going off in that moment, but even before that, right? Because you saw some of these victims' cars that were right here parked in front of your house, and that also kind of alerted you, right? Because that was unusual.
Yeah, we had just moved in, but that week we had never seen those cars there. And then all of a sudden, that whole weekend, there was cars parked right in front of our drive, and they never left. And they stayed there until the police came, and even after that, we found out they were deceased. Yes, those cars never left.
And obviously, that was something that raised your suspicions at all. Tell me, I know you hadn't lived here for very long, right? But tell me at all about Jordan Willis, what you know about him. I mean, did you ever see him out and about? Was he friendly? Did he come by and talk to you ever?
Honestly, I have never seen him out. I never saw him or talked to him, so I cannot speak for that, honestly. I do not know.
How about the fact that just something that is so strange, this case in general is bizarre and we don't have many answers, but the fact of the matter is 3 men were outside for 2 days on this backyard, one sitting up in a chair, 2 laying down on their backs, frozen to death. I mean, how do you wrap your mind around all that information?
It's a lot, honestly. I imagine it has something to do with a bad drug or something, but it's strange that how long it occurred for people for something to notice like that. If it happened on a Sunday, that's a long time, and I feel like something should have been said, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's hard to say out loud because you don't have all the information, but the fact of the matter is 3 men are now dead. Does it feel like you're getting, or your community is getting, the answers it deserves right now? That seems to be the big issue that the families have, is it just doesn't feel like they're getting closure because they're not getting answers.
Yeah, I feel for the families and that they just want to know what really happened. And I feel like if we need to know, we need to know. I'm sure answers are going to come out, but I know a lot of people are wondering what happened around here. That's for sure.
What is the talk of the town? How are people talking about it still? Because no doubt about it, the whole world is looking at this case and talking about it. So how do you and your friends talk about it, process it, work through this whole story?
We just kind of sit down and talk about it. Sometimes we're just randomly, we'll be talking about like what could have really happened. Like how do your 3 buddies, just you not notice them for 2 days outside in the backyard? So it's really strange for me and all of our friends. It's really hard for me to say, but I feel like it had to have been just maybe an accident. I don't know. It needs more investigation, though, I think.
Ashton, hang tight. I think Ashley Banfield has a question. Go ahead, Ashley.
I do. I don't think he can hear me with an IFB, but if he can't, pass this question on. Can you ask Ashton if he saw the bodies coming out of the house? Because we learned tonight on Chris Cuomo that the father of one of the men knew that one of the men was died or frozen in a position in a lawn chair on the back porch. And I wondered if he saw gurneys come out with 3 bodies, or if he saw something unusual in the position of the bodies that were brought out of the house.
Sure. We want to know what you saw beyond those initial things that you've shared already, in specific about the bodies coming out of this house. Were you still awake at that time? Did you witness gurneys or medical examiners actually coming out with these bodies or taking them out?
So I actually did not. After that, everyone kind of cleared out, so I didn't know what had happened, so I just went to bed. I thought it was just a misunderstanding or something between a wife and a husband, but that wasn't it at all. So I went to sleep, went to work the next day, and when I was at work, I got an email or a message from the friends, sending me the picture of the article about the dead people, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I honestly did not see an ambulance actually gurney anyone out or anything like that.
What do you remember about the conditions during those days here in Kansas City? Obviously, these bodies were found frozen. Do you remember it being cold, freezing? Obviously, you saw this woman talking on her cell phone at night, 10 o'clock at night in the winter weather, and so that raised your alarms. But what do you remember just about the temperatures or the weather around that time?
It was cold. It was really cold. I had gone hunting that Sunday, and we hunted a pond, and we actually had to put pretty much an ice prop in there to make the pond open. So I mean, if that tells you anything, we could walk on the ice. That's how thick it was. So I mean, it was definitely below freezing and not temperatures you want to just be outside hanging out in with no clothes.
Yeah, enough to raise red flags. Ashton, thank you very much for sharing that insight with us.
I have been following this story for quite some time now and made a couple of videos on this case where 3 men, Ricky Johnson, David Harrington, and Clayton McGeeney, were found deceased outside their friend Jordan Willis's home after watching a Kansas City Chiefs game. This took place on January 7th. However, it wasn't until January 9th that the bodies were discovered. So the public, but more importantly, the families, are anxiously waiting a toxicology report to find out what happened. The reason why they are desperately needing this toxicology report to come out is because they are getting no answers from not only Jordan Willis, but the police as well. It should also be important to note that we cannot accuse Jordan Willis of ending the lives of his friends, because technically, he has not been found guilty of any wrongdoing. But the problem with Jordan Willis is that his story doesn't make much sense to most people. Some may understand it, because I heard some people in the comment section saying, well, you know, I used to take drugs and I would pass out for a couple days. But to most people, it doesn't make much sense for somebody to sleep for a whole 2 days and not wake up once. That is what initially came out from his lawyer, is that he knocked out for 2 days, he didn't wake up once, and the last thing he remembers is that he was saying goodbye to his friends. He was seeing his friends off. We also have Jordan Willis's lawyer, who is also saying some conflicting information. Now, I get it, a lawyer will say anything to make sure his client is found innocent of any wrongdoing. But this lawyer is still Jordan Willis's mouthpiece. He's saying things like Jordan Willis was knocked out for 2 days straight on his couch, but then he said that he went out for a few times, but then he said that, well, what I meant was he left his bedroom for a couple times. Police came knocking at his door and he answered the door wearing underwear and holding a wine glass. And his lawyer said, well, it wasn't wine in there. He was drinking water from drinking wine the night before. So apparently he was up drinking wine the night before when you said he was supposed to be asleep. Then we have his 5th friend come out, who has been identified as Alex Weimer Lee, stating he was there. He didn't leave till 12 o'clock in the morning, and Jordan Willis was still up with these 3 men. They were watching Jeopardy. Now, some people are even questioning the Jeopardy story, because they're saying, who watches Jeopardy? What group of men get together and say, hey, put that Jeopardy on? Now, the thing is, from my own personal experience, I will never say, yo, put that Jeopardy on. But if Jeopardy happens to come on after something I'm watching, I'll leave it on the TV because I like playing along. But funny enough, never once in my 38 years on this planet have I ever heard anybody say, put Jeopardy on, I can't miss today's episode. But you get this conflicting information that comes out not only from Jordan Willis, but Jordan Willis's lawyer, but now also this 5th friend, Alex. So people are going to speculate. The families are going to speculate, because what they're hearing is not only conflicting, but it also does not make any sense to them. It's a bad thing to accuse somebody of ending someone's life or committing a horrible crime, or being accused of ending somebody's life and committing a horrible crime. But when the story doesn't add up, it just doesn't add up, and people are going to talk. People are going to speculate. But we have the Kansas City police coming out giving a new update. When the news first broke, Captain Jake Pacina of the Kansas City Police Department said this case is 100% not being investigated as a homicide. Point blank period, we cannot find any wrongdoing on Jordan Willis's part. His story adds up. 3 weeks after finding the bodies and talking to Jordan Willis, and it seems that it is still the case today. As Elena Gonzalez, a spokeswoman for the Kansas City Police Department, said, this still remains a death investigation and nothing more. 3 weeks has passed by. Police and investigators are stating they still have no evidence or indication of foul play. No one is in police custody. Now, many people speculate, and possibly the best theory as to what happened that night is that these 3 men overdosed, that the narcotic fentanyl might be involved. Now, it's very hard to prove who was the person to actually pass out this narcotic if it was indeed an overdose. Now, the girlfriend of David Harrington states that David Harrington did not do narcotics. He was not a user. Lori Cruz is in the camp along with some of these parents of these three men that do believe this was a homicide. But here's the thing, and I've been in this situation myself before. You're at a party, you're with a group of friends, you're having a good time. Somebody breaks out something, you're a little curious about it, you've never done it before, but you are a little curious. You take it, and you overdose. You don't have to be an addict to be curious and try something. Just because you take a sip of beer because you're curious, because you've never had beer before, doesn't make you an alcoholic. Same with narcotics. Just because you tried a narcotic because you're curious and you've never tried one before, you're with a group of friends, you feel safe, so you try it, doesn't make you necessarily an addict. But David Harrington's girlfriend, Lori Cruz, has stated this.
Lori Cruz, 17-year relationship with David Harrington, one of the deceased. She's the mother of several of his kids. Lori, thank you very much for joining us. I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
What do you want people to know about what is so heavy on your heart?
David wasn't a drug addict like they're talking about. He was a good guy, very good guy. He went to church with us. He coached my son's baseball team. It's the mystery is out there and everybody's talking, and I can't rest because my phone's blowing up about, did you hear this or did you hear that, about social media with all these links, and it's not, those are not true, and it's rude, it's hurtful. It's not who David was. David didn't do stuff like that. He got caught in the wrong.
Why did Cuomo say that I do after she stated that David doesn't do stuff like that? Very weird. Like, why would he say that?
He got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I don't understand how he could have, or, I mean, it doesn't make sense, 3 men dead. But I get to look at all the crap that's not true about him, and it hurts because that's not him.
It's easy for me to say, don't look at it, but I know it's suffocating. And I know that you have to balance what you're being exposed to with what you tell the kids.
Now, it's very possible that these 3 men were not addicts. They may never have done a drug in their life, but like I said, people get curious. Good guys get curious, and like that old saying goes, curiosity ends the life of the cat. But this is only if the toxicology report comes back positive that they indeed did take a substance and overdose. Because I can honestly believe somebody can be curious and try something for the first time and it goes the wrong way. There have been people that never drank a drop of alcohol in their life. They go to a party, they drink, they overdo it, get alcohol poisoning, and they pass away. It happens. But this is only if the toxicology report comes back positive. What happens if it comes back negative? There is indeed a chance the toxicology report comes back negative. And then what? What are we to make of 3 men, 3 friends, 3 big guys found frozen in their friend's backyard, found deceased in their friend's backyard, where they could have easily just walked right back into the house? Had there been a chance that they accidentally locked themselves out of the house and their life was on the line, break back into the house? One of the men's girlfriends did it. That is another thing. Cooperating with David Harrington's girlfriend, police even stated when this story first broke out that they didn't even believe narcotics were involved. There are even people stating that it's possible this might be carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide poisoning is not just something that sneaks up on you and you just instantly pass away. You will have symptoms such as headache, dizziness, weakness, upset stomach, vomiting, chest pain, and confusion. Running outside as fast as you can and getting fresh air will not always alleviate carbon monoxide. Sometimes you do have to get 911 involved as well. But if it was carbon monoxide in the house, Jordan Willis would not be asleep for 2 days. He would also have passed away as well. Even if he was a survivor of carbon monoxide, it wouldn't have put him to sleep for 2 days. He would have been experiencing a load of other symptoms where he knows something was going wrong with his body, more than likely he would have definitely called 911. But no matter what happened here, 3 weeks after the incident, police continue to state that they do not suspect any foul play. So one has to ask, if police do not expect narcotics to be involved, then what caused Jordan to fall asleep for 2 days, as he stated? Was Jordan given a drug test and it came back clean? This is why police do not suspect narcotics were involved. A drug test, a urine test, can indeed show fentanyl. A drug test can come back anywhere between 24 hours to a week. But yes, an actual toxicology report can take longer. It can take anywhere from 4+ weeks. So there's a lot of information coming out, a lot of bizarre information. Neighbors are talking. I did not know that 2 of the men were found sitting in chairs. Why did investigators, why did law enforcement rule out foul play so quickly? Did they find something? And why didn't they let the families know? It's been weeks now. They found something to rule out completely that there was no foul play, and yet they're keeping the families in the dark. This bizarre story is only getting weirder, and the only thing holding everything together is a toxicology report. And like I said, if that comes back negative, then we're looking at a whole different ballgame here of strangeness. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.